it's really important to say that the Winnipeg Foundation has been around for a long time. We have a lot of relationships in the community. We are trying very hard to have an appreciation of the way different organizations are coping on the one hand and the challenges that they face, so that our response back to the community can be as balanced as possible, and hopefully as responsive to the needs of the different parts of the community as possible. Certainly that's the goal. The Winnipeg Foundation will be there for every part of the community. We always have been a 360-degree grant maker, trying to be everywhere, and we will continue to fulfill that responsibility as well as we possibly can. Well, the Winnipeg Foundation has obviously lots of networks into the community. We see lots of applications, and our grants team in particular has great networks in terms of to draw on. But a lot of that is anecdotal. You're working on one particular grant application or whatever. So we set up a systematic kind of way, a disciplined way of gathering information from a number of what I'm calling bellwether organizations that are representative of the causes in the community. So we know we're hearing from the arts community in a disciplined way. We know we're hearing from the environmental community or education or families. We're hearing it in a disciplined way from all sectors. And so I think setting up a structure that augments, because it's not replacing, but it's augmenting the information systems that we already have, is going to serve us well as we work our way through the next number of months. This is not a short-term issue we're into here. We're into something that's going to last for a while, and we need a system that was going to support in a disciplined way the information flow into the foundation. Our strategy in gathering information has been focused on a couple of different ways. Obviously, we have a strong network within our grants team. Relationships that we can count on. I think that's really an important base. But in addition to that, we've been surveying what we're calling bellwether organizations that represent different causes. The Winnipeg Foundation pursues 5 or 6 different cause areas, and we've selected organizations that can answer questions and give us feedback from their perspective of what they're seeing. And then, of course, our grants team also has connections to what you might call umbrella organizations that relate to, the children's services or the environment broadly, and they sort of cover. They know what's going on in their organization. So we have different ways of gathering information, which feeds the decision making at the foundation. Well, we're dealing with obviously a very unique situation. There's lots of organizations that are seeing huge demand for their work, even though they don't have the resources that they might have had. And there's other organizations that completely have to change their operating model in terms of arts organizations. People aren't going to be willing to gather and that sort of thing. So I think when you're looking at different causes in the community, and they're all important to the sort of the community well-being and the quality of life we enjoy, there's differing kinds of reactions to this crisis situation, this unusual situation. So the foundation needs to gather information from these bellwether organizations. We need to talk to the umbrella organizations and rely on our relationships and community knowledge in order to inform how we allocate the dollars that we have available. The results are early, obviously, but there's lots of the obvious kinds of feedback that's coming from everybody's working remotely. And so technology is becoming an issue, and you have differing technology capacity. Some organizations are really limited they just don't have the capacity to do some of the things that you're expecting. Revenue loss, it's a huge issue. How are we going to access new government money coming in? We know it's coming into the sector, it's available, but do we have access to it? And at what level do we have access to it? The whole issue of mental health and the stresses that people are working at home, and they've got their children at home, and there's all those kinds of stresses that I think we're hitting organizations. Some organizations have an increase in demand, and other organizations have suddenly had a huge loss in what their base of operations. And so I think there's there's some common themes coming out, resources of when one organization made specific reference to how valuable, for example, the Chamber of Commerce membership was because it gave them insight into government funding and that sort of thing. So we're seeing information that I think is valuable to the operations of the foundation.